Welcome to Gray Areas for September 30th, 2025, episode 692. 700 is on the horizon, and what better way to celebrate a milestone than to bring back an old segment that is tried and true eventually. But first, I throw it to Sean.
Oh, I did say I was going to derail it. I wasn't
Literally 30 seconds
prepared,
ago.
Though.
How is it? You can't derail. You can't derail if he throws it to you, right?
Well,
It's
by
railed.
definition.
He's just railing.
so I had a question because it's really interesting because we keep talking about AI and Cody and I before the show started talking about the end of the world and all of that, and I just thought what was interesting about AI, it is getting so. I was doing some reading and it like the videos are getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what's not, right? And
I literally go online and I believe every video is not real.
well,
I
right.
have now switched my approach to everything is not real until I decide to Google it and find the source.
But so that's what I think is really interesting, right? And you would think that that's like the downfall. We either can't tell what's real, so we don't believe anything, whatever. And how can we live in a society like that? And then I thought, what would be fun is to ask the two journalists in the podcast. 50% of the podcast is journalists. I feel like there's like an opportunity, and maybe I'm naive, but like, doesn't this just take us back to like the 20s where like anybody can write anything, but we go to like these established media outlets with credentials that we trust to verify what's real and what's not?
You're giving the general population way too much credit for having any semblance of desire to do that.
But like in a way, couldn't that make what sometimes can be like everybody keeps bemoaning it's a dying industry and all that, like couldn't that make it critical again? Because that's what the value of like journalism used to be. It's like, this is where we can go. These are credentialed people that we can trust.
But they literally don't trust them.
Well, after we get through the Trump
changing
phase.
No, I'm with Sean on this.
Yeah.
I'm with Sean on this because it's changing, because there's a lot of shame online from getting fooled at this point. Like, you post something, repost something that's completely fake.
I see no shame. I see everybody embracing that it's fake and it's fine. And they just choose to accept the alternate reality. Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm with Dave, and like it's getting so bad, and like just look at the assassination discourse that we've had lately of like, oh, it's not real, and everybody's saying everybody's a ballistics expert. Everybody knows everything about how to assassinate someone. It's amazing. No one believes anything, and you're like, we're gonna reach a point where like we have to have a trusted source, and I hope that's gonna bring it back, especially after all the rhetoric of Trump, dies down.
Yeah. See, I think we could go on for an entire podcast. We're too far gone. I have genuinely, and like, I'm not being overly dramatic, I've genuinely lost faith in most of society. I previously was like, oh, we'll get over the hump of this. We're too far gone. I watch all the shit and the way people interact with each other. Our society is so mean, and our society is so vile and so accepting of, well, that's not real. Well, you're a fucking idiot is all. Like, I constantly see it across. Like, I don't go on social media much anymore because it makes me like sick to my stomach.
Right.
And so it's like, I would hope the approach is we'll get to a point where like everybody will finally realize like the majority of the population is actually getting fucked over, and it's not like 49% versus 49%, like battling back and forth for who's getting fucked over. And I'd really hope you're right. And then part of me looks at like literally the last 2 days of the news cycle, and I'm like, no, we have to have some really bad shit happen that actually impacts the broader scope and not one side or the other before you actually get to where you're at. So maybe in like 30 years.
Well, what do you think? What's your take, Chris?
Sorry.
Is this gonna go ahead?
I liked Jon Stewart's take this week. It's nice to have Jon Stewart back, even if he doesn't have his like A+ fastball anymore. Just to have him weigh in on certain subjects.
Please tell me he didn't have the exact same take that I just did.
No, but
Thank
what
God.
he talked about specifically was the more recent change where, we've had violent shootings in America for 30 plus years now. We go back to Columbine, and obviously there's other stuff before that, but we're talking about more in places where people shouldn't expect to get shot. But more recently, especially in the last year or so, it has become, we're not even going to wait till the body's cold to start pointing the finger at the other side.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
So the second there's any sign, and this is both sides doing this. This
Yep.
is not even trying to do both siding. Literally, both Democrats and Republicans have been so eager at the first hint of the sign that the shooter might be from the other party to crow about it that I'm kind of sick to my stomach too. It's different than even the worst of the discourse that we've seen over the last 9 years since Trump's first term. And again, it's not even one side directly responsible for it. Everybody's so eager to talk about, oh, your rhetoric's so violent and we'd never do anything like that. It's like, all y'all motherfuckers are doing this.
Exactly.
Everybody.
And until we can accept that basic fact, we can't move on from this era. I do think there's something to your point, Sean. I think there is a world where this does benefit journalism and more reputable sources in the long run. But we have to have people willing to accept that any facts are facts before we can get to that point. And that's the part where I don't know if I'm fully on Cody's side where I'm like nihilist about it, but I'm not optimistic because I'm like, if we can't even accept that 2 + 2 is 4, we have no roadmap forward.
And this is what's interesting, and we talked about this before, so I don't need to like belabor this too much. But like when we get to like, well, Trump is just a guy, and and really it's the policies. There's he's a figurehead. I'm like, no, that this is the problem. Is his presence, his constant questioning of facts of everything. Just lying. I mean, crazy. You look up any clip. I happen to find a clip today where people were asking what his favorite book was, and he just lied, just lying about his favorite book. And you can tell he's just talking in circles. He ends up quoting back the same book they asked him about. It just constant lying, and what that does to like the psyche of like, yeah, you can talk about policy, you can talk about right versus left, but like there's a whole generation of people clearly, to Cody's point, getting impacted by this approach, and it is damaging.
And it goes further beyond like the political side of it. Like, scroll through Facebook, and maybe your algorithm hasn't been corrupted and horrible.
I don't want to.
Yeah, scroll through Facebook for 10 minutes, and you will see so many people. Like, AI has infested like good news. It'll like AI being like, this mother bear lost her cubs, and she found 2 like wolf pups that also had their mother die, and she raised them and took care of them. And I'm like, that is so unequivocally a fake fucking story.
Yeah.
And it has 200 heart emojis and the little starry eye emojis. I'm like, you dumb motherfuckers are so desperate for happy things that you'll seek it out for an AI generated video that is a bot that's posting these fake stories.
Well,
And you just go along with it. And I'm like, holy fucking shit, we are so dumb as a society that we've dumbed ourselves down to be like, that's cool, it's so cool. It's like, just because it's adorable doesn't mean it's also not a lie.
You're a little bit right in the sense that I think it is it's going to be a generational thing.
Yes.
I hope it's not going to take 30 to 50 years, but it is going to be like, as an older, more susceptible generation dies off. And I mean, look, anybody can be fooled by it. I'm not just saying that, but like, I think predominantly it's older generation. We're going to, and like now you look at like, it's really weird. For example, the new Gen, is it Z? Is it Alpha? What is it now? I don't know.
Alpha is just ending, I believe. Actually, it's like 2010 to 2025 is technically Gen Alpha. So
okay.
Everyone born in those years. But so like Gen Z is the adults, is
So
the youngest adults.
basically we have a lot of teenagers who are like weirdly like puritanical. They're like very like religious. They're very like, you can't lust after people. They're very like, I church going, and I won't share my opinion on that except just to say how different, because I just remember probably 10 years ago, there were these stats about like, is religion going to survive? It's like dying so much in the United States. Nobody's going, nobody cares. Now there's like this resurgence of like hyper religious teenagers.
Well,
and you're like,
it's the original AI that was made up. So it works, You
there you go.
You just go back to religion that was all made up, and now we have videos of stuff that's all made up. So
I mean, I'm sure that it goes hand in hand, but like that's so this way of thinking can change. That's just one example. But
it's less harmful from that approach.
But I think the more and more people that are like, wait a minute, is this is the third bear raising wolf story I've gotten this week, and I think people will start to question like, oh, we need these. Where can we go when my feed is flooded with stuff I don't know I can trust? And it might necessitate this.
Yeah. And I'm assuming there's a pretty big population of people who aren't chronically online, who've chosen to really shelter themselves from this shit, who aren't that dumb.
That's me.
Exactly.
That's me.
And like
I
won't like
I'm
I'm not
not.
gonna let my children like on the internet for the most part. Like I've made this decision and Ryan's made this decision. They will pretty much not be on the internet, and it will be very monitored because the dumbification of so much of the shit you can get on there. It's like, no, why don't you go to school and read the book that was published by a place that, like, well, depending on your state, that is reputable and all that type of stuff, because they're out there. So those people are out there and exist somewhere. Dave is, example one of them. I have pulled back from it and then still end up on there, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I should just have a book by my nightstand to grab for 15 minutes when I have downtime and not my fucking phone. Like, there's steps out, like, I'm like in that process, because it's just I get the dumbest common denominator that I see online.
Yeah,
that gives me a lot of concern. Then I see polling that's like, well, that polling doesn't really back up, like, people who aren't chronically online. There are still some pretty dumb people out there, and so I hopefully my very nihilistic view is corrupted because a small chunk of the population is still so dumb.
hopefully you're wrong.
Hopefully-
Because if you're right, that's really bad.
I really, yes. Again, they just go outside, talk to people. Don't talk to people online anymore.
I was more, I won't say encouraged, I guess less discouraged about our immediate future, let's say the next 10 to 15 years, before Trump's second term. Even with everything that happened in his first term, he still sort of surrounded himself with career politicians,
Yes.
Despite the promises to drain the swamp. He put a bunch of people in the cabinet and other high-ranking positions that still knew sort of how to operate with certain decorum, certain limits, and the first 9 months of this presidency have been off the fucking rails. And
Yes.
people will point at like people like Kash Patel or Pete Hegseth as one of the examples of this. I don't know why we even bother talking when RFK Jr. is still in a position of power of any
Yes.
sort.
Well, yeah.
It's a fucking joke.
And I think what people, they see him talking about Tylenol and they're like, oh, that's so funny. And it like is a little bit until you go deeper and you're like that. So he just said in like not cogently at all. What exactly? He said, if you take it, nothing bad will happen. Don't take it. What are you talking about? And I know like you can laugh that off. And I think, Dave, you've kind of taken like give people credit. They're smarter than they appear. It's okay if he's a bumbling, idiot. But I think we're seeing evidence that like, no, he needs to have some sort of decorum, right? Like there has to be some credibility. He can't just go on and say whatever he wants all the time.
I will recant my concerns at the next presidential election, because if we continue to vote for people who put people like that in power, then I have no belief that America is saving. I actually legitimately think the country's coming to it.
Trump won in 2016.
Yes.
And then lost in 2020.
Yes.
Although he says he didn't. And at that point, I thought, okay, we're still going to see some imitators. There was something to this movement. It did embolden a voting bloc that felt like they didn't have a voice before. So it's not just going to disappear, but like there's going to be little like knockoffs, and maybe they'll spin it into something new. And instead, what happened is Project 2025 was real. Trump doubled down more than ever. And now it's at the point where it's like nothing matters. Nothing you say matters. Nothing you do matters.
Right.
If you lie, it doesn't matter. If you make jokes, you can say you were joking later. If you're not making jokes, then you go, oh, well, actually, I was being serious the whole time. Nothing matters. And that's the point where it's frustrating for me is, somebody who runs a newspaper, it's like, okay, like, sure, there are some people out there who are doing exactly what Sean said at the start of this, which is being like, I need to find better sources. But even some of those people aren't willing to pay for them. So it doesn't change anything. Because if you can't support those organizations that are still floundering, then we don't get anywhere. You can say that you support them, but they're still going to die unless something more drastic happens than that.
How much of this is one thing I laugh about is the fact that it might have been better if Trump would have won in 2020, actually, because then it'd be done and over with by now, and then maybe this whole influx of people wouldn't have happened, but that's a whole different story. But how much is AI not the issue so much in the fact of false videos and things like that, but the bot creation, the fact that something can be put out there and there can seemingly be a very high level of support for it very quickly because of bot responses and things like that. And we don't know who bots are and who aren't and things like that. And so, when there's 200,000 hearts on a bear wolf video, and 75K of those are bots, it makes it look way worse than it does. And that's much harder to discern than a fake video, I think.
I hate to tell you, I've scrolled through the comments, and I can pretty much tell who's a bot and who's not. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Not even just when they repeat. That's the easiest way.
Yeah.
But there's just certain types of language and syntax that they use that if you do look at this stuff enough, if you're unfortunate enough to do that, it's still not that hard to spot.
Yeah,
they
I've
think
gone
they're
through and I'm
being
like,
clever. It looks more slick on the surface. If you hold it up to any scrutiny, it falls apart immediately.
And the majority of people don't do that and only see the vast amount of agreeing or disagreeing or whatever that is.
100%.
Right,
And that sentiment changes.
Which is why also like X changing its algorithm to put more blue checks up higher up in the comments is also hurting because those are frequently bots. Like it's a cascading effect, but like it goes back to individuals to me. And when we had the president of the United States putting out an AI generated video of himself talking about med beds and all the virtues that are like snake oil salesman shit in 2025, which he later deleted, but it's like tens of millions of people are seeing that. And a non-zero amount of them, a much higher percentage that I'd like to admit, are going to think there's something to it. Oh, that the government is holding out on us. There is some kind of technology out there that the rich and the Illuminati have to keep themselves healthy for years and years. It's like you didn't bother vetting that. You just sent it out into the ether. And yeah, you deleted it, but there was no accountability, no like follow-up to go, oh yeah, that was posted by mistake, or I didn't review this. There was just nothing. It just got deleted, and then we went, ho-hum, move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the left is going to win the next election. I really do. But I mean, they have their own shit to sort out. This, cannibalism of each other. This, I feel like there's a competition to see like who's the most woke of the groups, and there's like a civil war
the worst strategy possible.
Right? Yeah, it's like the right is for the most part assembled under Trump. Right? They're all together in this horrific thing, and the left is like, oh, we're all over. And the thing is, on the left, if you are like, we agree on everything, but we disagree on one thing, I fucking hate you. And you're like, well, we got to get over that too, because like we got to be united and understand like there's a bigger picture, and it's not just who can we cancel, who's not woke enough all the time.
And I'm gonna need the left to actually grow a spine at some point.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I'm gonna need them to. This whole idea of like when they go low, we go high is going to have to stop immediately because Republicans are never going to meet them on that level. So you either have to engage or keep losing.
Yeah. And
that sucks. I mean, you want to be idealistic about it, but the fact remains that you can't sit there and pretend like, oh yeah, like Chuck Schumer is emblematic of everything wrong with the fucking Democratic Party, because it's like, oh well, these are good people at the end of the day, and we'll come and see to eye on something eventually. And it's like, well, if you look at the current government shutdown that's about to take effect in 3.5 hours, my suggestion is that it's probably not going to happen. This is the one area where Republicans have to work with Democrats a little bit. They're constitutionally bound to, and they're still going to blame Democrats for everything, even though they control every branch of the government right now. They're not going to meet you in the middle. So either figure it out and fight in the trenches, or get rolled over and lose again in 2028.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Newsom's doing. Like, there's a whole reason why he's being a dick all the time in the news and stuff like that. I mean, it's what he's pretty much prepping for. Is what,
and it's so depressing that it's resonating in some ways, because I hate it from Trump side. I hate it from that side. Like the most negative resonates the most, and it's wholly depressing.
Yeah. Yeah, but like if we can get Trump out, I think it does help a lot with at least putting us in the right direction.
And that's going to happen in 3 years, regardless of what.
Sure would hope so.
Oh, it will. I have no fear of that.
I think
whatsoever.
that I'm most curious is because so the best example recently in the last 24 hours is put out a video of one of the Jeffries in a sombrero and a mustache. It's super racist and dumb. And the most response I see is, oh, the left is such pussy bitches because they can't take a joke. It's funny. Ha, ha, ha. And then no one on the right is like, wow, that's kind of shitty to do. Johnson's sitting there being like, it's not my style, as a Democrat woman is yelling at him, being like, what the fuck, basically. He's like, I love and care about working with you, but that's not really my style. But he won't condemn it or say it's like, that's pretty shitty to do. I'm really curious if the party and everyone involved continues the bullying piece of shit attitude that they have towards anyone who doesn't agree to, whitewash all of America. And if that attitude doesn't go away, then I don't believe Trump being gone means jack shit. If this is all subservient crap because you're terrified of him canceling you and getting you unelected, which boy, we got to fix fucking elections. The fact that everyone's just fucking campaigning all the time and that's all they give a shit about is making sure they get reelected. So they have to suck Trump's dick to make sure that they can get reelected.
Right.
My hope is we would get to some semblance of easing that back. But honestly, we could sit here and bitch about Trump. It goes back to like Newt Gingrich going against Clinton, like when I was a fucking little tiny child and the history I've read. Gingrich stepped up all of this rhetoric and this party line stuff, like to really make adversaries to where you fucking hate the Democrats. Like a lot of Republican people want to hate and kill Democrats, regardless of whatever bullshit they say online that they're not scary and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, they fucking hate liberal people. I don't really give a fuck and hate conservatives about when we get into taxes and shit like that. Those are perfectly fine discussions. I don't really like, and I hate that you want to jail a bunch of my friends' families, considering I have a bunch of friends who are fucking Mexican.
Yeah.
So like, that's where I'm like, well, I'm going to draw the line at you wanting to imprison people. Yeah, I'll be an asshole about that. And so that's where I wonder if the senators and reps and all that stuff, how many of them will ease it back and how many of them will lean into this is just what the Republican Party, and honestly, not even Republican, just conservatism is. It's just a bizarre thing of like, oh, it's funny to be racist. And it's like, but again, the answer every time is Democrats are a bunch of pussies and can't take things that are funny. And I'm like, that's when I say, I'm like, America's just meaner than it used to. Mm-hmm. It's just meaner and angrier.
That's true.
And it's all sourced because you could say whatever the fuck you wanted online for the past 2 decades and everyone decided to. We always said, well, you wouldn't say that in person. Motherfuckers do say it in person now. People are just mean.
It did change.
And so
I think you used a word that I think is the most poignant, telling, which was bullying.
Yes.
And people bully until they get punched in the mouth and someone tells them to fucking stop. And no one in the Democratic Party has come even close to doing that. So Trump wins a second term and then everybody gets right back in line behind him. The MAGA movement was going through some issues around 2022 or so before he really confirmed that he was running again. And basically when they got Ron DeSantis to get out of the picture and it became clear Trump was going to be the nominee, there was about a year or 18 months where it wasn't entirely clear what the MAGA movement wanted, and there was some splinters in it. But because they're back in power and things are going great, everybody's all rah-rah Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So until the Democrats decide to punch back, there's really no reason for them to splinter right now. Could it happen again at the next election if they lose and it becomes a referendum on the party as a whole? Maybe. But that's 2028. It's still 2025. That's a ways off.
Yeah.
And you're right. Does that party cannibalize each other when they have new candidates? It's like, does everyone say like, well, I know best and I know best and this and that and fight for Trump's endorsement, whatever it is? And if everyone falls in line behind one person again, then they can kind of continue going, which again, I think is your point of making about Democrats are fractured and people think you actually believe different things and don't all follow one specific guideline of how to believe in stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, if it splinters again because DeSantis and if he tries to run again or whoever or other candidates, and they have genuine debates about differences in how they would do this and not just call each other fucking idiots and say, no, I love Trump more than you and I loved him more than you all along and get an endorsement, whatever. Again, I'm curious to see because, at that point he won't be eligible to run. So you're right. What would then actually happen? And that's why I'm like, I will suspend my belief of the world being basically dead to me until the next election. But everyone falls in line and we just roll through this again. I'm like, okay, so then when really does it stop?
Yeah.
Republicans say, I don't agree with everything Trump does, but that's not a deal breaker for me.
Right.
Democrats say, I don't agree with everything whoever does, and that's a deal breaker for me.
Yep.
And until they break that mentality, history may be doomed to repeat itself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I said I wasn't going to derail it, and I kind of did. So.
Well, you didn't because you got pushed onto that rail. Like you actually were guided specifically on.
It was a separate rail. It was a separate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It was a trolley problem.
It was like a switch track.
Yeah. Exactly. I killed 50 people instead of one.
But I think we still have time to get to this segment that I referenced at the top.
50 people?
Trolley problem.
Yeah, you killed 50?
Yeah.
Sorry, who was on the track?
It's inflation. It went up from 5 because the economy is tough out there right now.
Why were so many people on that fucking track?
I don't know. It's really you think the train would start running out of momentum eventually? Like, goddamn.
Well, see, it was there was 50 Republicans staying there because they said Trump was at the end of the other line.
Yes.
They had to get in line.
Yeah.
To see him.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah.
And then they pulled the lever and they said Democrats did that, and you're like, well, all right.
Do we have enough time?
And then there was an AI
this?
video of a Democrat doing it, so maybe they did do it.
Okay, good. We have enough time. Then I didn't derail
it. We'll do one of them, but I think we'll have time for both. These typically only took maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and if they're tighter, then we'll see. The reason that we're all over on the side and there's been a big black spot this whole time when I really should just switch to the 4 wide is because we are doing Time Capsule. And I don't even know if Cody, have you done one of these with us?
I did Doug.
Okay, so I thought maybe you had once before. We've done it sparingly in the last 200 so episodes, but
I think it's like I have forgotten like that you have before I came on and derailed this, and then whatever we did for different game shows and stuff, that you guys had like a set rotation of different things.
Oh man,
you would actually do regularly.
I'm seeing Chris Hansen.
Why don't you take a seat?
Oh,
Catch Predators on here.
Look, Sean, this country is infested with pedophiles. He was before his time.
I know.
Man, Chris Hansen was when I was not on the show.
And Sean gave it the
I
highest
was voting
score.
without me.
Now, don't say that to be finger pointy. It was just he was going through a phase with him and a friend that they were watching a lot of it.
I probably like it even more now than back then. So
I'm fine with it being here still, by the way. It was part of my growing up.
Yeah.
So I have no issue with it. It is just kind of funny to see him amidst a lot of other stuff on here. For the audio listeners, I made a whole thing where it looks like the bottom of a chest, I guess, like a thing, like a box that you would put things into. We finally went back through before the last time we did this and actually recorded everything that had gone in and everything that had been rejected. So basically the concept is this. We take a thing from our past. We have a couple asterisks on the ones today. We'll get to that. And we decide, okay, what was the score back then when it first came out? What's the score now? If the score now holds up, it's a 7 or higher, we put it in the time capsule because it's something that's worth being preserved. So there's 16 out of the 45 that we've done over all these years that have made the cut. Those are on the screen. I won't read them all off, but like the NES is on here, Stuffed Animals is on here, Chris Hansen is mentioned, NBA Jam, Anchorman was one of the more recent ones. Bob Ross's Floating Head is here. So again, 16 to 45 have made it. We're going to do the same type of scoring system. We're going to stick to the idea. The two that we're doing today, or at least one, depending on how many we get to, are both things that still are going. However, they're both certainly past their prime, I would say. If nothing else, I think one of the two is still going pretty strong, but the fact remains that like these are never going to get the numbers that they got ratings-wise 25 years ago. So because the shows haven't changed a whole lot, I think I'm comfortable doing this still. It is a little unusual because most of the things that we do on this are like done and dusted. They're in the past, but we're looking at two things potentially, American Idol and Survivor.
We should definitely do Survivor because Maisie will lose her shit because she's watching all of them right now.
Okay. I'm fine with tackling that first, and if we have time for Idol, and I think we will, we'll get to that too.
Well, and I think like it's funny because numbers-wise, like ratings, I bet you Survivor's not as high. I could see a world though with like more people and whatever. Like the point I think really matters for what you said is the cultural impact. Like it's not the water cooler thing where everybody's talking about it, everybody's addicted. Like it's around. It's not the same cultural impact.
And we won't have anything that's that big of a cultural impact anymore because there's too many streaming services, too many new shows, too many ways to, like,
yeah,
it's so hard. Like Severance did a really good job of it. It's one of the only things I felt like the majority of places I get, like that was still actually a conversation.
Yeah.
People were watching it and interested. It's so hard to capture something like that. I mean, Severance season 1 had like really, and granted, maybe that was around pandemic time or so, or right after it.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit easier to rein it in. Stuff wasn't as wide. But it's so hard to capture like America's #1 audience show, whatever what CBS brags about. And it's like, you're right. It's like, well, it's X amount of viewers versus what it was in the past. But of a splintered viewership, isn't that still an overwhelming majority of like of that time slot and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
I actually attribute Survivor specifically to the downfall that we were just talking about in America overall, because it started reality TV pretty much. Like they had Real World and stuff like that, but this is the first like, okay, we're gonna put people on a game show. God, and it just.
I get what you're saying. That's a bad take. I
hate reality TV shows, and I've always hated them. So this is really hard for me.
If you want to blame somebody. Well, I guess you could say Survivor's reality TV. I suppose that is
it was the first reality TV like game show. Like we're gonna take a bunch of guys, random nobody peoples, who are gonna throw them in a weird situation, and then we're not gonna like the game is important, but the more important thing is interviewing them in between. It's
the adversarial thing within people on it because they vote each other off. That's what you're saying. Because a regular game show that has like 3 different people competing against each other, they're against each other, but it's based on a literal, tangible point total skill, whatever.
Jeopardy. Jeopardy, Wheel of
Precisely.
Fortune, whatever that is.
Turning
Yeah, exactly.
Survivor into a voting system to where you get the people who are watching talking of, well, who do you like more and why should such and such, blah, 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 whatever along those lines. That competitor aspect view to where it's not like, I guess it's like the challenge. I like the challenge better than Survivor for this reason is of if you like run a race and you finish last, you're last. You go home. You lost the show. End of story. There's no outside input or conniving and conspiring to eliminate the best person because all the losers get together and vote off the best person. So that's what you mean. It's the beginning of that aspect of reality.
Yeah, I
TV.
mean, I guess, but like, honestly, I would. My guess would be the Osbournes started the reality TV downfall. I think reality TV, it was huge. Everybody talked about it. And then you have all these spinoff shows. Not Survivor. Anyway, I mean, we go back and forth. The point is, Survivor was awesome. And on, it was one of the first shows where it's $1 million. So you're talking about, they're here for 3 months or whatever it is. I don't think it's quite that long. But you're doing all these competitions. And like it means when you're hanging on totem pole to get immunity, it means a lot more when $1 million is at stake and not like $5,000 or Burger King, like we see in the challenge a lot. 39 days. So like 1 month. The fact that they really are starving, like they do have to get their own food. They have to do survival skills. We've seen seasons where and I'm going to be careful talking about too many seasons because that's a point I want to make later. But like they have a hard time finding food and they're like dying on the show, and it's fascinating, but it's terrible. The dynamic matters, but I'm not watching to see, is so and so gonna like hook up. I'm watching to see, is so and so gonna hook up, because how will that impact the voting?
The problem is you're in the minority in that.
No.
From America, you're in the
no.
minority
The
in that.
alliances and all that matters in that show. That's why that show is so
you're
relevant.
in the vast minority of watching it for that reasoning now, unfortunately, and that's evidenced by everything Dave's saying of the dog shit we have on television.
No. It's because if that was the case, no one would watch Survivor anymore. They would go to, like, every show would have similar ratings to Survivor, and that's not the case. People do.
Fuck Island basically does. That's my problem.
Well, you're right. Love Island is huge.
I want to be on your side, and if Love Island very specifically didn't exist, I would be very against Dave right now. But because I watched that show blow up in the last 2 years, I unfortunately am leaning towards Dave's point.
Well, but like I can't judge what Survivor means to you or Dave, or random people who just want Fuck Island version 2.0. Like I can only judge it, based on my experience with it, and my experience is you get these moments. I will never forget there was a season where you had a favorite and everybody's going to vote him out. Like as soon as they got in power, they were going to vote him out, and he just kept winning immunity, immunity after immunity. It was so cool. It was such an underdog story, even though he was really kind of the overdog. That's why everybody rallied against him. He should not have lasted as long as he did. And I'll just never forget that moment. That it impacts me more than Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune or whatever
version of that platform of show. Like in terms of actual fun drama, against all odds, all that type of stuff. I think that's where you get, again, the better case scenario of it. And that's why I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm not going to vote Survivor that low, because in a pie itself, I guess, in a glass box, nothing else, it never inspired anything else. It's just looking at it by itself alone. It's a very nice show.
Yeah.
And it can go very well for everything you said, which is why I'm not going to vote it lower. I have to not let its unfortunate residual influence, which 30 Rock hilariously made fun of, which is literally why I call fucking Love Island Fuck Island. It tentacled out into what if we eased back on the starvation and made them all really fucking hot? Now what if we encourage them to fuck the entire show as much as possible? And that tentacled out. It's that's where we got. We went through so many layers of dumbing it down for people, and it sucks because it's so innovative when it first shows up. It's such a crazy premise to strand people and starve them to death and make them hold on to shit. It's fucking wild that we tortured people for money, and we watched it.
had it been a 1-season thing, I don't know that it would have had the same. It would have had an impact for sure, because it would have been like, wow, that was a really unique experiment and really entertaining to watch. But then it kept going and going and going, and that's what caused all the spinoffs, because people kept watching and watching and watching, even though, then they had to go more wild and more wild and more wild, and then go into other genres of every type of eliminate the person game show, and it led down the path. So if it had stopped after one season, I'd actually probably would
but
really like
Cody already did this, and I'm going to ask Dave to do it too. You can't judge a thing based on the things that it inspired based off of it. How was that?
But even so, it kept going, because it kept going still.
Well, yeah, because it's successful and good. I'm sure there is a Star Trek thing where if I look at all the things Star Trek spawned, you would groan.
It's horrible.
And Star Trek is still going too. Are we going to say Star Trek is a fucking horrible show?
And that's a perfect reason why I can't go about it that way. Never mind the fact that I watched the challenge and I watched the traitors, which wouldn't exist if Survivor didn't exist. So digging into I'm part of the problem anyways. So
my difference is I never liked Survivor in the first place. So that's my
so it's easy to be like, I'm going to cherry pick any fucking evidence because I don't like this thing. Why don't you just say why you don't like it instead? Why don't we cut out 30 minutes of the straw man, like bad faith argument and just tell me what you don't like about it? Jesus Christ.
I've said exactly the reason why I don't like it up front. The fact that you have to go in there. You talked about the fact of the voting off the best person as the strategy immediately. That's subsequent seasons that built upon itself, which kind of sucks in a way, because that immediately became the strategy. And then all of a sudden we're gonna have a show where like, hey, the best people, fuck them, they suck.
Yeah, but
Get
that's
out.
part of the strategy, right? Like if you
I know, and I hate it.
If you win, you get immunity, and so it is sometimes in your best interest to win. But if you win too much, you just put a target on your back. So you have to thread the needle.
It's for America there, right?
It's the sports fan aspect of you go in and you're like, well, the best team should probably win, and they will more often than not, unless someone gets hurt, blah blah blah. And so like the life isn't fair angle that a lot of these reality competitions take is. I still get it as I'm like, well, that's a hard truth. Sometimes you don't always fucking get what you want, even if you are the best candidate or the best person. And that's why I don't shit on it too much for that unfortunate approach.
I think the best, and then I'm going to ask Chris what he thinks because I've gotten heated and that's my fault. It depends how you define the best. If you're talking about the person who could win the most challenges, right? That is one way to categorize it. But I think the best is the person with the overall strategy. And if your strategy is, I'm going to go in and I'm going to win every single competition and paint this big target on my back and not form the alliances that I need to continue, and I'm going to get blindsided, well, then you're not the best.
It's tough to go into a thing that has a physical challenge and then like a political corruption angle to it, and you're good at the physical challenge part, but that is only half of the game they're presenting.
Exactly.
It's not basketball. Like if basketball was like, well, we have 4 teams playing, and now they're going to play each other in a round robin pool. But now, once the 3 teams that lose get to vote out the best player off of the best team, or some shit like that.
And then at halftime, you have to do Sudoku.
Like it's a different, and that's what I'm saying. Like rewiring the sports brain of a competitive aspect to some of these psychotic challenge type things where voting is involved. That is an aspect of the game, and not liking it is perfectly fine. I'm not going to yell at you like Sean yelled at you.
Yes,
Sean yelled at me already.
Yes,
like that. I totally accept that. I think that's what I think what you're kind of mostly getting at is you would prefer these competitions to be competitions, physical challenge, like the strong man. Again, you could go on ESPN and watch the world's strongest man. That's basically what you're getting at. Is more entertaining than watching Survivor have world's most mediocre strong person. Oh, they're voted off because they were too strong.
For whatever reason, the interpersonal drama that comes from real interactions with real, I put in quotes, people on these shows is some of the most cringeworthy, like makes me want to puke type of things. I like the drama that comes from that drives me away so hard that I can't, like, I don't enjoy watching. I never have.
Yeah, I'm backing down.
Well, I have something to say, but I'm gonna I said I was gonna let Chris talk. I'm kicking it to Chris.
Hi. Hello. The drama is the best, says Maisie.
I know.
I think it is completely fair to give a slight credit or demerit to something for what it spawns as a result of its existence, even if it has no control over what happens. We have the NES on the screen right now, and we give it credit for what it meant to the entire home gaming console market for everything that came after it, even though what Sega did based on the NES has nothing to do with the NES itself. Now, we are judging these on individual merit. So again, I say slight demerits or credit, but I think to dismiss it entirely is a mistake. And Survivor, for better and worse, spawned dozens of other shows trying so hard to be just like it. And it's not the only one that's done that. How many game shows in the 2000s owe half their shit to Millionaire? The dramatic lights, the music, like everything tries to copy something else that's successful. We see it in movies and TV and video games. So it's not unique to here. But as somebody who does not really care for Survivor, I have to do two things. Give it a ton of credit for everything it's done and still being around, which it's sort of akin to like The Simpsons or something else where it's like, yeah, it's still around. A lot of people have fallen off over the years, but like it's still doing pretty good ratings by today's TV standards. It deserves credit. And I can also hate the fact that it does have a somewhat, like it's a direct, although strained and distant lineage to shit like Love Island or shit like even more directly Big Brother, which is just a worse version of Survivor because instead of being about almost any athleticism, it's only about the stupid drama bullshit and the voting.
Mm-hmm.
I give Survivor a lot more credit than I dock it for doing so, but I do dock it a little bit for that effect. It was almost too big for its own good because it was so huge at the time. But I also, over the years, have softened on it a bit to the point where I'm like, it's one of the better versions of these shows. And even though I don't care for them a ton myself, I can at least admit, yeah, like it has staying power for a reason because of the dynamics of the social interplay, the scheming, and also the athleticism. That stuff does matter. So I'm going to give it a decent score now that I wouldn't have back then.
You were about to say, I'm going to go crazy. So not on Chris, actually. I liked Chris's take.
I just had one small point because I made this earlier of like, society's gotten meaner and it's been okay to be meaner, blah, blah, blah. Does some of the conniving and evil backstabbing and then winning money out of it on some of these shows help lead to our society being kind of dickish? Because it got them somewhere. That was my point. I know.
That was exactly my point.
No, so I was trying to round it back to your point of that. That's what I was trying to get to.
Sean took it the other way that I don't like the show because it moved into making every other show, and that was the reason.
I do 100% believe it has. I mean, granted, I could sit here and blame sports radio for the same idea of what it did into society for sports specifically in its space. And so, like, yeah, I mean, I
don't think so. I think it was one example of a trend that society's going through, and not like correlation causation. Like, I don't think, well, if they were mean on Survivor and that's why Trump is president, like, not that you're saying that, but
it got him a reality show that he was a piece of shit on.
So it sure did. Actually,
I actually do 100% unfortunately track that as a line together, but because of his reality show.
Yeah. So I don't. The other beef I have with Dave's take is like, so you're judging something, and I wish I had a better example, but like one is if I hated trivia shows and I just think they're boring or whatever, and then I went on, it's like, oh, Jeopardy, we're doing Jeopardy in the time capsule, 0. It's like, I wouldn't do that because I can recognize the quality and the thought and how well it's done. And not just, well, I don't like trivia shows, so therefore it sucks.
Sure. So the funny thing is, you won't let me talk enough to actually get a full poignant thought across. Only the slight bit of, hey, this is what I don't like about it.
All right, why don't you go ahead? Why don't you prove me wrong now?
Well, no, because it was influential. And like I said, it was starting to say earlier, with the one season when it first came out, it was a very intriguing experiment. It was oh, wow, let's throw a bunch of people out of their element and see how they survive. And the fact that when you're out of your element amongst other humans, alliances are a very important thing. You have to align yourself with people because that's how human society work. And so it's that first season, that first thing that happened was really like hey, let's look at the human condition through real people. My issue with it, and why I would like it in the first season and not like it in the future, is that stopped becoming a look at the human condition and look at how can we play the game? How can we get to make sure that we'll align ourselves with what we know the rules already are, because we've watched 25 seasons of this already. So I really do appreciate what that first season was, much in the way that I'll spoil a little bit of American Idol, the first season being like, hey, let's find a singer. You know, that type of thing. But what it spawned in the future is so degrading for me. So looking at it back in the past, wow, what a great idea. It was amazing to see. I hate what it became.
Well, okay, so Hayward became, and I have a retort, but let's do the thing where we rate it back then, because we've kind of all done our takes back then.
So when you say back then, like what?
Like let's
how
say
many
like
seasons in.
Yeah,
God.
this is the
Pretend
tricky
you were
part
20
because normally we're rating a thing back then, like when
Yeah.
NBA Jam came out, and that was just a definitive point in time. I think we're talking like first 4 or 5 seasons tops.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
At the most. And for me, I watched the first 2 all the way through, and then I didn't watch anymore. So until much later. So I don't know how many you watched, Cody, back then.
I don't. Maybe the first season when I was a kid, and it was interesting to be put on if I was allowed to, but not a lot more than that.
So we'd say first 4 to 5
say the
seasons.
first
I bet
4
you
or 5.
none of us
I'm
even
like
made it that
aware
far.
of it as an impact of
Yeah.
like society when I was like that age though. Like I don't think I needed to watch it religiously to still feel like I'm okay about judging it based off of that run of time.
So I'll go like 9.5 back then because it was really, really good. Never really seen anything like it before. I think it was really interesting that like the part that I struggle with is in the challenge, when you're voted out, you have a chance. You never want to go into elimination, but like you have a chance to come back. On Survivor, if you get the most vote, you're just done. And like it's something that's so, by the time you get to the voting, it's so out of your hands, especially back then.
And honestly, like that's why I didn't watch more of it. I didn't like that.
It's hard. It's a hard part of it. So, although some of those challenges are a little bit lame, and that comes into any show that's like that. They're not all golden, but and it can get a little bit predictable, especially back then. The playbook was if your clan loses, you vote off the worst person, and it was pretty predictable until you kind of reached later on. So, anyway, but 9.5 is still like I'm nitpicking. That's a good score. Well, yeah, that's later. That's later. Honey, that's a Redemption Island. What is this shit?
I want to hear what Dave has to say.
Yeah.
Back then, I remember being a teenager. I think this came out 99, 2000 was the first year this came out. I think it was
1997 is the original thing that was in Sweden called Expedition Island or something like that. And then the first American season, I believe, is 2000. Yeah, May 31st, 2000.
So I remember being in high school, hearing about this and thinking like, that's interesting. I never really watched it. I didn't really watch much TV, period, in high school because I was just always kind of busy in high school with sports and whatnot. But like I said earlier, what it did as an original show, as an original idea, is very interesting to me. So back then, I never was interested in it because even when it was on, I was like, I don't care. It's not something that's going to draw me to it. So I'm probably, I guess, 6.5 because it's a unique original idea back then, but I never really liked it. Never drew me.
Should I go and go?
Sure.
I have the early part of it like 8.5 because I can see the appeal. I can see the uniqueness. I can see how revolutionary it is as a show. And then if I'm only looking at those ones and I'm only looking at the influence it had early on and all that, then yeah, it's mostly not bad. It's not, I mean, again, what'd you say, Chris? 97 is when the version of it before it got to America was. So we're talking 20 something plus years of this. So if I'm only looking at the first 5, like I don't, if I was basically judging at the end of that 5-year run, I'd be like, yeah, it's not like a show that's fully for me, but it's also not a disaster. And it's, I think, going to maybe spawn fun things back then instead of bad. So yeah, I'd have an 8.5 then.
Gave us 6.5. That's terrible.
What
do you got, Chris?
My opinion is terrible. I know.
Back then, I mean, God, I don't know how low of a number I can go because back then I don't care about the cultural significance as much, and we don't know about the staying power. And at that time, it was a type of television I was not interested in at all. So if I'm putting myself back in like 16-year-old Chris's shoes, it's like a 3. It's a weird one because again, we're sort of having to judge it differently than other things that have had that point in time So my now score is going to change to reflect that, and the now score is ultimately what decides what gets in or not. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the then score because it is odd. I'll give it like a 5. It doesn't really matter, though, because that's not what we're judging on, but it has to be lower than what I'm giving it now, so I'm going to go somewhere in that range and shrug.
Cool.
So that has to be an inherently bad take, right, Christian? Because lower than my score.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when we get to the modern score.
He just wants to make sure it goes in the box.
With Maisie, while I'm talking, I want you to give your score back then. Which, like, I don't even know if it applies, but like, even
Not
like
born.
you saying now what it used to be, that's fine. Now it's interesting because the cultural impact is not there. Well, I mean, like, I recognize what it was, but like these days, the cultural impact's not there anymore. I mean, not really. It's just kind of one of like Amazing Race, like the challenge, like whatever. But the gameplay is so much better. And they keep, Dave, to your point, like, oh, it's just the same thing over and over. They change up the formula every season. There's like new rules every season. They do hidden idols now. That completely changes the game because you never know who is going to have what. And also the game's a lot more sophisticated. What I was talking about earlier, where if your clan loses, you vote off the worst person. That's not how they do it anymore. They really value, alliances and who is going to support me, even if they're bad, even if they're going to make maybe our team lose. Do they have my back? And it's so like politically motivated now. The strategy is so much higher. You have people like making fake idols, pretending that they have them to throw off everybody else. And you have such a higher level of strategy than you ever did before, where it's a pretty straightforward game. So, like, yeah, 7. Yeah, I like 7. So now it's like a more sophisticated game, but like it doesn't mean as much, and it's not quite as exciting because we've seen it so many times. But I'm still gonna go like an 8.5. It is they're like the best at what they do. Every time we look at the challenge, and I go through and I'm like, Cody, I saw a similar thing in Survivor. It was way better done, or the balancing was better done. They actually play tested the games on like the challenge. It's just so much better now. The bar is set so high, and like very few shows can match it. So like I still think it's a really good score. It just isn't the same cultural impact.
I mean, still on CBS. It hasn't been like bumped to a lower level channel.
Yeah.
It's still on the main network in the United States as one of its centerpiece things. They run 2 seasons, I think, a year still.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So that's why when I'm like, I get that it's ratings and the people talking at the water cooler, whatever, isn't as much, but like, I'm not changing my score. I'm staying at 8.5.
Yeah.
Because you could, for all the things you've said about what the show is like now, all the shit that it's created, I value pretty highly of, like, whether it's good or bad, again, to Dave's point, it has created a shit ton of other shows. There's a basically genre of television that if Survivor's first season tanks and doesn't do well, this, like, a lot of stuff never happens. And for better or worse, it launches a bunch of people's careers. It puts a bunch of other stuff on television. It also, and this sounds like the dumb version of me because I'm trying to be optimistic and not only negative, how many jobs does that create?
No.
This show's that successful and that good, and it creates how many television production jobs for the people who are just set designers, whatever, casting people, all that type of shit. Like, it does create a lot of influence in that sense, that it like offered people opportunities to go do things. There's the negative of the personalities it might create, or the residual personalities it might create. It offers a shit ton of opportunity for a lot of people. And again, sure, it's not getting its ratings, but CBS is a pretty masterful run network. Like, let's be honest, they're the number 1 network for however many years of my entire life for a reason. And this is one of their primary shows, and they're sticking to it. So why would I not go with the people who know best? If it had been canceled 10 years ago and we're looking at this time capsule, it's for the funny part of doing it now versus doing it when it's done. Well, when the fuck is it gonna be done?
Yeah. Even when Jeff,
people keep watching it, nope.
I was gonna say when Jeff dies, but it's never gonna happen. He's just some kind of
the
like
most
immortal.
Recent season still averaged more than 4 million viewers.
Yeah.
In 2025, a legacy TV show putting up those kind of numbers is impressive. It's part of why the president talking about ratings so much is so fucking disingenuous, because everything's down in ratings. Everybody's streaming now, television on demand. It's completely changed. Anyways, go
But
ahead,
yes,
Cody.
that was it. No, I'm sticking with an 8.5. That's why I was trying to find what number I wanted to land on the back end to do in the front end, because you can, some stuff have gone down and influence, and a lot of other influence and other things have gone up. So it's still on TV and it's still on the main network. Hasn't been bumped, hasn't been canceled. So how would I demerit it, I guess, in any way right now, other than if I was leaning into the point that I do genuinely agree with Dave of, it can piss me off in a lot of ways, but if I don't want that to like negatively influence me too. Looking at the stuff on here, I don't think that's fair.
All
Go
right.
ahead, Dave.
I'm going. Okay. Well, I have such a difficult part here because, like I said, I've just never enjoyed it. It's not been something that I watch and enjoy. I've watched a show like The Challenge with you guys, and maybe I don't know the backstory enough, but I've watched other certain reality shows along these lines, and there's different. I'm going to give it the credit, the fact that this is the original and probably better than most. But like a show like The Biggest Loser or something like that. Like, I remember actually watching that relatively religiously at a time in my life, mostly when I was really fat. And it was ironic in that time. But I remember liking it and feeling bad about myself for liking, almost like not even liking it. I think it was just like hate watching. And I wish I understood what it felt to like something like this. And I don't know. I never have. So what I'm going to do in this, you two gave 8.5s. We need a minimum of 28 points to get in the time capsule. That's an average of 7. I'm giving it a 4 now. Because I'll give it 21, let Chris do his 7 if he wants it in or not. And there we go.
Well, so I mean, I'm fine with gaming the system, but what I would say is you gave it a 6.5 back then, so you really are saying, not that it's worse now necessarily, but like you're giving credit for the cultural impact back then.
Yeah,
and now
yes.
that that's gone now, yeah, I get what
I'm
you're
playing
saying.
Survivor. I'm gaming the system here. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking his credit for
Oh, see, I don't think that's what you're supposed to do in this segment, but
Well, I didn't want Dave to go last because I was worried there was going to be gamesmanship coming. I already had a score in mind, and I will not change it based on what he has done.
it. And see, it is fair that I did go third because I knew you'd have the integrity. To be fair, I was doing that regardless, no matter
Right.
what you
And
picked.
I know that I won't get the blame for this if this goes south, so it's fine. This is an interesting one. We haven't done something like this before. We talked about how, again, everything that you can see on the screen or the ones that we listed off for the audio listeners are ones that either were completely finished and had not been seen since, or like that version of it exists and maybe it came back in other forms, whatever. To me, I think when I think back to my time with reality television, it's not something I've engaged with a ton either. I'm much like Dave, where I was like, I never super got the appeal, especially back then. Nowadays, I get the appeal, and I think my only major issue with it is the manufactured drama. The first-person testimonials into the camera stuff usually annoys the shit out of me. And this is not just Survivor. Other shows besides Survivor were doing it at this time, but it has been a constant ever since. That's the stuff where I'm like, I don't need you to tell me, like, pretend to tell me what you were feeling at the time. Get out of here with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're rating something that is still going, if the whole idea is that something that needs to go in the time capsule is something that can be preserved because it endures, Survivor kind of automatically gets a leg up. It is enduring, and we can kind of put whatever we want to in the time capsule. It's arbitrary, but we could put those first couple seasons in there and be like, yeah, in 30 years, you're going to open this up, and you will still get that effect of the human experiment. You will get to see a cultural phenomenon in its infancy. So I can't go any higher than this because I still don't care for this genre, but the score I had in my mind before Dave said his was an 8. And the proof is in the pudding. It is still around. It still matters. As you all have already said, it is not the cultural zeitgeist. It's not the water cooler. Maybe nothing can be, or it's much more rare. Like Barbie can somehow become close to that level. The Super Bowl is still kind of close to that level. They're fewer and far between this, but like you can't dock Survivor for that because nothing about pulp culture is like that anymore. So instead, I think it has to be recognized for the fact that it is still going. It was not a flash in the pan. And again, it's one of the better examples of these shows you can possibly think of. Which means it's a 29, which means it's a 7.25, which means it's in the time capsule.
which my only beef with Dave was like, I would have thought a 4 would have been too low. I know you're gaming it, but like based on your scores and stuff, I don't think you would have gone under a 4 anyway. So that's why I'm okay with it.
Are you gonna put Jeff on there?
I am gonna go find a picture of Jeff. I did not grab one yet.
Okay.
But
I honestly, until you mentioned Jeff, I didn't even know he was the host because I haven't watched much of it, so I have no idea. Like, I don't know enough about it.
he's kind of the face of it. So
Again, when you
Yes.
watch the NFL for your entire life, and
Mhm.
every Sunday that's on CBS, you vaguely understand more of this show than you really have any interest to understand over the years, because I'm battered and smashed in the face with ads to watch Survivor or The Amazing Race or Big Brother's also on CBS. If I remember
Yes,
right.
it is.
Man.
Um,
Yes, it is.
CBS Alliance.
So yeah, like I've dealt with that for quite. That's a very old picture of him.
Mm-hmm.
He is much older than that now.
Put him right next to Chris Hansen. No, let's not do that.
Withered.
Maisie, what's your now score?
10.
I mean, she fucking loves it, so I can't imagine it's gone down.
Right.
She loves it. She loves it.
She'll chime in a moment.
You know, it is less manufactured drama in Survivor than the challenge, which I think is even less manufactured than maybe Cody. I think Cody suspects it's more manufactured in the challenge than I do.
I think it has gotten more over the years because they don't let them drink.
Well,
for the
right,
most part.
right.
I think on the challenge when they were drunk as shit, I don't think much of it was manufactured. I think you put a bunch of horny, drunk 28-year-olds in a room together and then told them to win some money. And
whereas now I'm watching Johnny Bananas in that most recent season you were watching, and I'm like, he's just trying to be an asshole.
He's
because
trolling
that's
for
like
the
his
sake of
persona
trolling.
now, and it's
That's-
actually costing him. So I find it to be interesting in that sense. But I'm like, now it's not even manufactured; it's like forced.
yes,
Well, and he is forcing it because I think he sees like this is kind of boring. And the sad thing is he's kind of right.
he is.
Yeah.
Not
So
wrong.
Unfortunately, I also agree with that.
Yeah.
But it was the ones where like the challenge is almost more frustrating to me. Like you said, I think it's more manufactured there in part because it's like you guys know you have a physical challenge to do tomorrow, and you're out getting fucking plastered the night before.
Yes.
It's like tomorrow we gotta go play for $500,000, but tonight I'm gonna get wasted, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
And that's
Yeah.
why, like, the ones where when they get more creative with some of the physical stuff and they reward it more is where I've leaned into liking it, like those seasons more than throw a twist in and fuck some people over and you win and then you don't have any whatever fucking rules we go with. And again, most of it's manufactured because it's like it's all manipulated to, well, if we all need skulls to make sure we make the run
Yeah.
the final, it's like, well, but literally someone should just never have an opportunity. Like,
Well, yeah. And
like it doesn't just magically appear that everyone had an opportunity, and then we get to the end of a season. It's like, well, now it's a daily challenge and the winner gets a skull. It's like, no, motherfucker, you told me those were only in the elimination. So why are you changing the rules? Like, that shit is what gets on my nerves is when we change the rules and manufacture it. Because I can sit here and say I think it's really manufactured, but then they're showing how it is literally manufactured.
well, and I know like so there's two elements that I think Survivor doesn't really do. One is I have to be interesting. And it's less about optimal play and more about getting invited back.
Yes.
So I need
Yeah.
to be really interesting, even if it puts my current game in jeopardy. You don't really have that with Survivor. You're just there for almost always one season, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then there was one other thing. I think in challenge you'll have two people talking, and a cameraman will walk by and be like, "Oh, that was really interesting. Can you guys like just kind of like restart that conversation?"
Yeah.
So it's not like authentic, but it's like when we go watch Whose Line. And it's like, oh, that was cool. Can we like run my intro back because I tripped? So everybody clap again when I'm walking down like you're singing for the first time. It's a little bit of that. Is that manufactured? Yes. But they're still like, they're getting at the authenticity.
Mhm.
Again, though, Survivor, I don't think they're really doing that. It's kind of just they're out there doing stuff. And then the first person, they're doing it later. And that is the part
And
that I don't like.
if they do it, they're producing it better.
yeah,
Like, just
well,
honestly,
that's true
they're
too.
They're just
Well,
producing it
Yeah.
The
better.
other difference, I think, is the final tribal council. There's a certain aspect where it's like if you're a complete asshole and you stab everybody in the back along the way to get to the final 2 or 3 contestants in that season, you're probably still screwed because everybody else is voting on what's going to happen. So your fate's in their hands if you're just an absolute jackass the whole time. So there's like a limit to it. You can certainly be manipulative, you can play the game, but you can't just be a total dick because it's almost never going to work out for you.
You are mostly right.
Almost.
Every once in a while, you'll get a cast where they're like, "Wow, they backstab everybody, but they really played the game."
Yeah.
And then they'll get voted. And you're like, "You guys."
Yeah.
But
Come on.
yeah. So
So that's it.
I guess
Yep, that's
part 2 for American
Oh, yeah.
Idol.
And we'll find another thing that we'll either put it as half an episode or we'll put another thing with it and do a full one. And we'll do this again sometime soon, maybe before the end of the year, maybe not, because all of a sudden, we're starting the countdown to episode 700. We're 7 episodes away, and then that's the 8th. In that span, we have a Suns preview in 3 weeks, the day before the season opener. We'll have a game show. Trivia Night 16 will be before the end of the year, because in December, we're going to be doing some pre-recorded episodes for the holidays, and this year we're going to be doing TV theme songs, and it's going to take a ton of time to go through, because when we started making the list of them, there's like 100 plus at least easily
Easy.
that we can talk about. So it'll be like a tier list format that we do for the entire month. But because that's the case, we'll see if we get to American Idol before the end of the year. Maybe. It's possible. We also still have to do the Demon Hunters review at some point, maybe. Right. We've talked about it for 4 weeks. It seems like we really should.
Demon Slayer.
And Claire Obscure sometime.
Yeah, and Hades 2, because that was one of our top 10 games in our revamped list of the best games ever, the first one. So feels like something that needs at least a half an episode. So a lot to get to, and all of a sudden the weeks are going to melt between now and the end of the year. But thank you for joining. All the games. Yeah, there's a lot of... Going to be an interesting game of the year race. I had the same thought. Sean will talk about that too. 3 pretty strong contenders already have separated themselves, and there's still a couple others that are going to be worthy of conversation. So it's going to be complicated, because I do not think there's a clear front runner. But we'll talk about that in a future week as well. That's it for this show. In between episodes, you can find us at our website, grayareas.live, or this channel, youtube.com/@grayareaslive, where you can join us for the live podcast. You can put your comments on the screen. It's a grand old time. See you next week.